In this week's drive, we take an unusual slant on Formula One. A famous name steps up. We see a pit lane traffic jam and get a wave from the winner. All this and more in this week's Drive. We start this week with an artistic look behind the scenes at the BAR Formula One team and the inside story on how some of those special effects that we take for granted are actually created. BAR's test driver this year is Takuma Sato, the Japanese driver dropped by Jordan after a dismal rookie year. Sato brings not only a season's understanding of Formula One racing, but also a solid working knowledge of the Honda engine that both teams used last year, but which is available only to BAR this year. Interestingly, the 26-year-old from Tokyo tested with both teams at the end of 2000, having come third in the British Formula 3 Championship, scoring 3 wins and 6 poles. The next year he continued in F3 and took the title after winning 12 out of a possible 13 events. He also went on to win the Marlboro Masters at Zandvoort and the Macau Grand Prix later in the year. For 2002, he made the step up into Formula One, signing with Jordan to drive alongside Giancarlo Fisichella. But his maiden year wasn't a happy one. His best finish was 8th in Germany. He scored no points and was running at the end of only 7 of the 17 rounds. But at BAR, his race knowledge and obvious ability to communicate with Honda's engineers and technicians in a common language are expected to help the team bring the engine's performance up to what the team will need to win races this year. This year, the team's number 2 driver is Jenson Button, at just 23, regarded as the wunderkind of motorsport. He started karting when he was just 8 years old, and at 11, he took the British Cadet Championship with 34 wins from 34 starts. Moving from karts to cars, Jenson was dominant in Formula Ford in 1998, taking the British Championship, runner-up in the European Championship, victory at the Formula Ford Festival, and receiving the McLaren Autosport BRDC Young Driver of the Year award. In November 1999, Jenson tried a McLaren Formula One car, and 2 weeks later, in a test for the Prost team, he outpaced veteran Jean Alesi. Williams grabbed him, and at 20, he was the youngest driver at the first Grand Prix of 2000. He scored points in his second race and ended the season 8th in the championship with 12 points. Jenson moved to Benetton for the 2001 season, which was a difficult year. The team was developing a new car, and Jenson picked up just 2 points. 2002 was better, and Jenson finished 7th overall with 14 points, but announced he was moving to BAR for 2003. By comparison, Canadian team leader Jacques Villeneuve is a double champion. He won the Indy 500 and the IndyCar title in 1995 and the Formula One World title with Williams in 1997, before moving to the fledgling BAR team in 1999. He's the son of legendary driver Gilles, who died in his Ferrari 20 years ago when Jacques was just 11. Pretty stunning shots, aren't they? Did you ever wonder how they were made? Well, here's the answer. Also present at early season tests are often a phalanx of film crews commissioned by the various teams and sponsors to shoot their shining cars complete with their new liveries in action. Teams take advantage of these exclusive sessions to shoot their own films because of the usage restrictions imposed on actual race footage by Formula One's commercial controllers. This way, teams can direct their own films and ensure that they have good quality material on film for use by shows like Drive. However, in order to gain a different result and really stand out from the rest of these films, BAR Honda's sponsors, Lucky Strike, decided on a unique approach this year by inviting filmmakers Flying Cam to contribute to the shoot and provide their own interpretation of how to really capture the excitement of Formula One. Flying Cam has perfected the art of aerial filming from their squadron of meter-long remote-controlled helicopters to provide a completely different visual experience. The Belgian company are responsible for shooting much of the airborne footage you see in movies and promotional films, working on blockbusters such as Die Another Day and the previous 2 James Bond films, as well as Mission Impossible 2, The Avengers, and even Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. As well as this, their work is evident in about half of today's car advertisements.
Don't be bothered, okay? I'm gonna increase sometimes with the roll. He will come down with 200,
Yes,
225 maybe.
He's coming with 245 there.
What did I do? 25 I
So-
said. I want to cross the car. Like just behind. And cross again. So it's twice. We should cross the car. Follow those.
Yeah.
And I think he hit the bumpers right there.
In Canada, yeah?
Water. You can climb sooner, it will be fine.
Young drivers ready to compete in the 2003 British Formula 3 Championships gathered in Britain for the series launch. Among them is Nelson Piquet Jr., 17-year-old son of the 3-times World Formula 1 champion. Last year, Piquet was South American Formula 3 champion, winning 13 out of 18 races. But this season, he'll be competing with probably the best Formula 3 drivers in the world. Drivers from 15 countries will be taking part in the series, and all of them are determined to make their mark and move up in the motorsport world. Almost all say they want to become Formula 1 test drivers within 2 years, and then to race in Formula 1 itself.
Banging wheels. Not that close. Not that close. But it's almost always going to be in an arrow shape.
Piquet is doing it the hard way. Rather than buy a seat in an established team, he's set up his own. And he must set up the car as well as get used to the climate, the tracks and the food. The team has broken 4 engines in 3 weeks, and this has slowed his progress. The race series will move around Britain and across the Channel to include a race at the fast Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium.
When you're in a condition like here in Great Britain, that you're coming with a small team to start everything new, and I'm always trying to push hard and harder to see where the limit is. We commit and we do a lot of mistakes, but I think that's just in the beginning. Stuff will start to get better and better every time we drive, and I hope we don't step back. We step always forward.
Before Nelson Jr. was born, his father won the Formula One World Championship. Here, he drives his 1982 Brabham at pre-season testing at Kyalami in South Africa as world champion for the first time. Nelson stayed with Brabham for 8 years.
I think Renault finished last year very strong, and I think Prost will be the man to win the championship this year.
Nelson won his third world championship in 1987 driving a Williams Honda and was presented with a trophy at the traditional end-of-year ceremony in Paris by the FIA's autocratic chairman, Jean-Marie Balestre.
It's normal, you know, having a father like I have, one of the best pilots of the world, winning 3 times the world championship of F1 championships, winning the British F3. I will have to support it. I think I will do my best here, and whatever happens, maybe if we don't win the championship, we do a second year, or I don't know what's going to happen. But I think if we continue working, if I continue improving, I'm a young driver, so most of the drivers are older here, or maybe older than 20, and they have a few years already in race car, and I'm in my second year, and I'm still 17, so everything is still new for me. I'm learning a lot. Every day I practice, every day I sit in the car, I learn.
29 drivers have entered the 12-race series, which begins in April. The series was launched at Silverstone, with reporters being driven at high speed round the track. Formula 3 is an important stepping stone to the ultimate category of racing, coming between Formula Ford and Formula 3000. Among the other drivers in the championship are Robert Dahlgren of Sweden, the appropriately named Scott Speed, who comes from near San Francisco in California, Will Davison from Melbourne in Australia, and Karan Chandok from Madras in India.
Yeah, last year for me was very much a learning year. I learned a hell of a lot, you know, racing in England. Everything's different, the circuits, the cars, the conditions, everything. And it was just a question of building that experience as I come into this year. And now that I've got a year behind me, I'm confident that we can be a championship contender this season.
Brazil has a proud history of producing champion drivers, but Venezuela's rising star is Ernesto Viso.
I mean, Formula 3 this year is going to be very tough. It's very good drivers in all the teams, and it's a class, a category where you can learn a lot, because the extra that the driver put on the wheel is the extra that does the difference, because all the engines are pretty similar, the cars are the same. So the driver is the one that makes a difference, right? It's good that.
Beside Nelson's father, other Brazilian stars of the track include fellow 3-times champion Ayrton Senna and Ferrari ace Rubens Barrichello. No doubt the Formula 3 class of 2003 will be aiming to join the stars in the Premier League. Across the Atlantic, it was a clean start to the historic 2000th NASCAR race over 500 miles of the tough, short track of Bristol in the state of Tennessee. But it wouldn't stay so calm. Just 15 laps into the race, a crash took out several cars. Dale Jarrett ploughed into Dave Blaney, and Casey Mears then almost hit Jarrett, and Michael Waltrip also took part in the pileup. After pitting in a caution period, cars 3 and 4 wide made a traffic jam as they tried to leave pit lane.
On fire when it came in.
After a crash, the right front tyre of Mike Skinner's car was still smoking.
Well, we got one sideways on the front.
On lap 219, Jerry Nadeau was tapped by Ryan Newman, spun out and hit the inside wall. This brought out the 10th caution flag of the race.
That's too bad.
There was a 6-car pileup on lap 244. The number 11 car of Brett Bodine tapped the back of Terry Labonte, and that started a chain reaction and the 12th caution period of the race. Labonte's car was wedged into the back of Bodine, but the two were able to get free.
They rode back together again right there.
Late in the race, Kyle Petty, who thought he'd survived the damaging race in car number 45, was hit and crashed into the outside wall.
Collecting Kyle.
After being taken to the infield medical centre, Petty was moved on a stretcher to an ambulance, which then took him to a local hospital.
Seen him make his way into an ambulance via a stretcher. I know it looked a lot worse than it was. We're being told that they're just taking him to the Bristol Medical Center.
Kurt Busch, a runner-up 3 times this season, earned his first win of the year and defended his Food City 500 title by gambling on pit strategy and avoiding all but one of the 17 cautions on Bristol Motor Speedway. Matt Kenseth finished second, with Bobby Labonte in third. Kenseth leads the title with Busch second and Tony Stewart third after 6 of the 36 races in the series.
He and that team have got their...
The 2003 Indoor Trials World Championship came to an end in Spain. Gas rider Adam Raga only needed to qualify for the final lap of the Madrid Grand Prix to take the world title. The Spaniard completed his task in style, picking up only 3 penalty points over the 8 observed sections to finish the qualifying lap in first place, claiming his first world title at just 20 years of age. His compatriot, Albert Capestany, and last year's world champion, finished the qualifying lap in second place. Capestany picked up 7 penalty points for a place in the final lap, which he went on to dominate. The Beta rider led the 4-man final before the staging of 2 head-to-head races. Marc Frischer was looking for a second Grand Prix victory, having won the previous round in Nice in France. The Spaniard advanced from qualifying in third with 9 penalties, but he picked up 21 points in the final lap and finished fourth. Third place would go to Takahisa Fujinami. The Japanese Honda rider reached the final lap by the smallest of margins. He picked up 10 penalties, while Mark Collommer had 11. Fujinami then picked up 18 penalties in the final, but reached the podium for the first time this season. Dougie Lamkin, who had reached the podium in each of the previous 10 Grand Prix, endured his worst finish of the season. The British Montesa rider finished the qualifying lap in 6th place with 17 penalty points and failed to reach the final lap. Capestany had 1 less penalty point than Raga going into the 2 head-to-head races. The 2 Spaniards won 1 race each, which resulted in Capestany taking the final win of the season. Among a crowd of 5,000 spectators were almost 200 supporters from Ulldecona, the tiny town of Raga's birth. Although the hero had not won the Grand Prix, he had taken the bigger prize and celebrated with an unorthodox lap of honour. The 2003 motocross season began in Spain with the 125 Grand Prix. Stefan Sword took an early lead ahead of fellow KTM rider Steve Ramon. But Michael Maschio would push ahead with Alessio Chiodi and Andrea Bartolini in tow. Victory could have gone to any of the 3 former motocross world champions, but Maschio soared ahead on his Kawasaki, and he was still out in front when he took the checkered flag 2 laps later to scoop the first win of the season. Michael Pichon made a good start to the motocross GP and was in the thick of a 5-way battle for the first place that also included Joel Smets and Stefan Everts. The race was contested by riders on both 250cc and 450cc motorcycles. Pichon was riding a 250cc 2-stroke Suzuki, and the Frenchman crossed the line almost 10 seconds ahead of Joel Smets, who rode a 450cc KTM. Stefan Everts took third for Yamaha. A smaller field battled for the honours in the 650cc race, but Spaniard Javier Vico Garcia made a great start on home soil and was vying with Yves de Maria for the lead in the early stages. Martin Zereva produced some early entertainment with a crash in the whoops section of the course. Joel Smets was looming, and the Belgian would have a big say in the outcome of the race. Smets is the most successful 500cc rider in the history of the sport. With his 4 world championships in the senior class and a total of 41 victories, he can certainly be recognised as perhaps the finest 500cc rider of the modern era. Smets edged ahead and wasted little time building a commanding advantage. The KTM rider would extend his lead and denied the home fans a Spanish victory as he went on to take the checkered flag. Local favourite Vico Garcia finished second ahead of de Maria. Finally, many cars have moved away from the classic boxy shapes to sleek racing profiles, but Malaysian car maker Bufori is still cranking out the classics by hand. The car company prides itself on being a kind of high street bespoke tailor, making custom-fitted cars with the best and latest that technology can offer. Having established the Mark II two-seater over the past 7 years, Bufari is about to launch its latest model, the Mark III La Joya, another two-seater based on the classic lines of a 1930s luxury coupe, but powered by a modern V6 2.7-litre engine. Bufari itself started out in Sydney, Australia in 1986, when Jerry Curry, inspired to build a car that epitomised speed and luxury, crafted 3 cars by hand for his 2 brothers and himself. The company made 25 cars in the first production series and then moved operations to Malaysia in 1994 at the invitation of Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad. Setting up a factory in an industrial area north of the capital, Kuala Lumpur, Bufari began making a Mark II model that is still in high demand around the world. The Mark II is powered by a 2-litre Subaru Impreza engine.
The market demand is people want a car that is tailor-made, people want a car that is customised, people want a car that's got some human emotion attached to it. And that's what Bufari is all about. It's a very personalised product that we produce. To produce a car on the assembly line is like producing an appliance. People have gone a step ahead of that now, and the demand for this kind of product is definitely there.
55 workers, mainly Malaysians, craft the car from carbon fibre and Kevlar. The new Mark III, which will retail for about $100,000 US, combines classic good looks and the latest technology, including an onboard voice-activated mobile phone and computer system that has 16 language options.
The initial reaction for the Mark III is absolutely phenomenal, bearing in mind that we haven't actually officially even launched the car, and we've just about sold our entire first-use production of 320 cars. The specification level of the Mark III and the quality of components that go into the car actually make the decision for the customer. As far as the customer is concerned, there's no need to even look at the car. The decision has already been made. It's a very well packaged vehicle. Everything about it is very well packaged.
In fact, the new model might have been called the Phoenix, as the company has resurrected itself after virtually going broke in 1998. Unsold cars and equipment was auctioned off to pay debts, and media reports of the time consigned the company to history and scoffed at plans to build a V6 model. Yet, less than 5 years later, here is that new car. Although it's based on other companies' major components, the Bufari is not a kit car. It can only be bought as a complete vehicle, and the specification lists contain most of the features you'd expect to find in a top-line BMW or Mercedes-Benz. US car fans have put in orders for 100 of the new La Joya coupes, making up nearly a third of the orders already held. The cars are also coveted in Europe, Korea and Australia. This is a big step up from 2002, when just 20 Mark II Roadsters were built and exported to Australia, India, Hong Kong, Korea and Britain. The company has negotiated with dealers in the United States, Germany, Britain, South Korea and Singapore, and distribution deals are being negotiated in China, Japan and the Middle East. All this goes to show that there really are different strokes for different folks. That's all for this week, but so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.